Well, we're back. I just got a call from my son's swim instructor that he won't be going to swimming this week. So, what a way to start the show. It's Late Night Parents. I am your host, Ted Hicks. On Twitter, you can find us, facebook.com/Late Night Parents. You can find me on Twitter, twitter.com, The Real Ted Hicks. Or you can find us also under the handle of Late Night Parents. You can also find us on the website, the portal, latenightparents.com. Happy to be here. Tonight's episode, guess what? Episode 28 is called Moments. We have three very distinguished guests that are joining us tonight. Ms. Jan Arnow, who's internationally known, a speaker and author. And she wrote a great book called In the Line of Fire, Raising the Kids in a Violent World. She's going to be on at 5 minutes past the hour. At 30 minutes past the hour, Ms. Simone Bridges, who's known as Simone on Sports. Yeah, she's a label mate. She's on Blog Talk. She has a show, Snapping Tips. And then we're going to have Brandon on Sports. I'm going to ask him if they're brother and sister or something like that. But Brandon, he's on the Sports Trap Radio, which is on Tuesdays, 6:30 Eastern Time. So happy to have them, these three guests, on the show. Really excited about it to have these folks on the show tonight. We want to start off by thanking our radio partners that are with us every week, near and dear, through local means, through internet radio. Really excited. As usual, we are on the home of the Happy Hour Network. We air every week live Wednesday nights. We're also picked up, as you know, XRP Radio in the UK, Starlight Entertainment Radio in New Zealand, you name it. I mean, our good friends NGSC Sports, and we are powered on iHeartRadio. Really excited about those folks. We also have UNR One Radio that always helps us out. Hold on one second. And I would be remiss if I forgot Life Improvement Radio out there in Clearwater, Florida. Out there in Clearwater, Florida, we want to say thank you to all of our friends that listen to the show, broadcast the show, whether through syndicated methods. Really appreciative about it. I guess from there, I just want to make one reference to our good friends at audible.com. Our folks, we're a part of Audible. We had our discussions with them. You can find us, audibletrials.com/Late Night Parents. There's more than 180,000 titles that are available for you. We want to thank our good friends. Also, the WWE Network for the work that we've been doing behind the scenes with them. We will be on site at Monday Night Raw in less than 2 weeks. Really excited about that. So we get pitched all types of products, and, you know, for the most part, we try to jump in and help out where we can, and we have a bunch of new blogs on the latenightparents.com, so when you get the chance, we want you to go there. I'm not sure tonight, since we have a full guest list, if we're going to have the ability to go and read a few of the blogs. So, but without further ado, I think first in the queue is Jan Arnow. Really, really, really excited to have her. As I've mentioned before, international educator, trainer in collaboration and community development, leadership, and interfaith concerns. She's an author of 8 books and still writing, and that's the beautiful thing about it. She's not stopping. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Jan Arnow. Jan, how you doing?
I'm just great. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us here and just to share some of your words of wisdom with some of our listeners.
Well, thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I want to say thank you to our friends, I believe, Ascot Media.
Yes.
For making this happen. But I will tell you, Jan, I received your book from our good friends at Ascot Media on the same day as the riots went. I mean, they broke wild in Baltimore, and it was all over the television. So I received your book. The FedEx gentleman rang my doorbell, and I'm like, oh, a package, okay. And then I open it up, and then I'm watching CNN, and I'm like, oh, this is right on time. And I want to say, Jan, we'll jump right into it. It's like I started reading this, and I want to just read a couple of things to you that you provided to, your readers. Is there's an overexposure to video games in which the object is to solve conflicts or gain power by using force. I'll read something else. The average child watches 22,000 hours of television by age 18 compared to only 11,000 hours spent in the classroom according to Nielsen data. And I'll read something on page 3, which says children and teenagers in the United States are 17 times more likely to die from a gun than are their peers in the top 25 other high-income countries combined. Jan, thank you for getting this book. Tell us, why did you write this book?
That's an interesting question. I've been involved in the field of violence by and against children for probably 30 years. And when I go and speak and when I do workshops, the most often heard comment I get is, just tell me what to do. So I did. It's not rocket science. In this book, there are over 400 things that people can do that cost nothing. And the problem, the bad news, of course, is that the problem is enormous. But the good news is that it's so big that everyone has an opportunity to help find a solution. And every one of us can make a huge difference. If we don't do something now, it's moving forward so quickly that we're left behind. If we want to see our children grow up in this culture of violence that we have created for them, they only think they're in charge. And, I've had 3 of my own and I have grandchildren. So I know. And we have a tendency to blame the victim, but it's not their fault. We created this culture of violence. So if we want them to grow up in this culture of violence and then perpetuate it into the next several generations, we should do nothing. If we want to stop it in its tracks, we can do that. And you can see in the book there are hundreds and hundreds of things to do, depending on where your child is, what you're interested in. Nobody has to do everything, but everybody has to do something.
Jan, I can only speak for myself and my wife and our kids, and we try to keep them involved and engaged in extracurricular activities, whether it's with the school, with the church, with a third party function, or somewhere in the community. And I'm not saying that's the recipe for success. I'm not going to say that, but that's what my parents did for me when I was that age. And I'm just thinking, it's just, you have, just what you said before, you have to be involved.
Yeah, we have to be actual participants in our children's lives because we are their first and best teachers. We can't be on the periphery. We have to be involved. And I'll bet you have open channels of communications with your kids too.
Yes, and that's key. It's there's certain times when we're sitting at the dinner table, and you know, I hate to sound like we're the Partridge Family or like the Brady Bunch or something, but I'm like, we need to have an open and honest conversation. And I mean, my daughter is 13, my son's going to be 8, and I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be able to have that relationship, that open and honest with you know, because I know at some point there's a switch, and that switch happens, and the next thing you know, you're like, uh-oh. And then I've lost them for a few years.
I have a theory about that, which is when the kids enter puberty, aliens come and take your children away, and they leave these alien kids in their place. And then the trick is, if you don't kill the alien, then you get your own children back at about age 19 or 20.
That's what I was wondering. I want to thank you for that, because I was going to say, when do they come back? When do they say,
come
okay,
back?
Dad,
They do.
you know what? They say, you know what, Dad, you made sense. You really, I understood what you were saying. You know, you were pounding my, you know, this knowledge into my head, and I was resisting it, but now I'm ready to take it all in.
Well, I have to tell you, I mean, I'm hearing that now from my kids. They're in their 30s, and my oldest one is 35. He dropped out of high school after 2 years and did drugs for 2 years, and then decided to go back to school, get a GED, aced it, got picked up on scholarship in college. He's now trauma surgeon in New York.
Oh, beautiful.
So the point that I'm making here is that we have no throwaway children.
Right.
They are all worth investing in. And
Jan,
nobody said it was going to be easy.
Jan, I know I'm getting a little off topic, but what I feel compelled to share with you. My dad wanted to go. He wanted to go to Foxwoods, and that's the casino in Connecticut. And it was one of those times where I said, "Okay, we'll go. Let's go on a Saturday." And my dad is 83, but so this was some time ago. Let's say this is a few years ago. I'll give it like maybe 10 years ago. And I'm 44, and I said to Dad as we were driving, and I said, "Dad, I just want to let you know something." I was like, "I hear you. All those things that you said to me, I said, I just don't know if I ever really thanked you, but now I get it." Because he would always say to me, when you have kids, this stuff is going to make sense. And I know that's some of the things you've said to your kids.
Oh, yeah. And you know, you have no idea how good it feels to hear that from your own children. There's another point that I'd like to make, though, that even if you don't have children, you're still raising them, because every economic decision we make in this country raises children. Every election, every person we elect to office is raising children. So even if you don't have children of your own, it's like the vaccination thing, you know. Don't just do it for your own children. Do it for the other kids who are going to come in contact with other children. We have to be there for our kids. You know, when you said that you were involved in your kids' lives, I think that's extraordinary. One of the most important ways we can be involved in their lives is to be in their school system. You know, the schools are ours.
Yes.
We pay for them. And
totally.
My kids, I've been wearing the same perfume since I was in high school. So, you know, I'm in a little bit of a rut, but all of my kids' friends knew the smell. And when I would come into their school, 3 stories up, I think, some of the kids would say, "Oh, Chloe or Abe or Sam, your mom's here." My kids knew. The kids knew that I wanted to be involved in the school and in their lives. And they were proud. They were really happy that I was doing that. The studies have shown that the more you're involved in your children's lives, especially at school, the better they're going to do, not only in grade-wise, but for the rest of their lives.
So tell me this much. I mean, I know from reviewing your book the intended readership, but I want to ask you this question. You've written 8 books, and I would love to have you back for to discuss each and every book. But I want to know, when did you realize you wanted to be a writer?
That's funny. I didn't. Well, no, I can't say that. When I was tiny, I must have been 3 years old, I was at my grandmother's house in Washington, D.C., and all of my other cousins and my sibling were out playing, and I was upstairs in one of her rooms taking apart paper bags and stapling them together. And I couldn't write yet, but I knew my alphabet, so I was putting a letter on every page. That's the earliest that I recall doing anything with books and with writing them. But I did not train as a writer. I trained as a photographer, and all I ever wanted to be was a war photographer. And I've done some of that. But when I started writing, it doesn't stop. I can't think about things to express without putting them in book form, which is a terrible thing these days because people have stopped reading books.
Right.
That we have attention spans that used to be the width and depth of a Cocker Spaniel, and now our attention spans are that of gnats. I know teachers who have to teach in sound bites in order to get their messages across. So,
Jan, I just want to jump in and say, if it's not 140 characters, people don't read.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. So maybe my next book I should write on Twitter. What a great idea.
That's a great idea, you know. Hey, and you thought of this idea while you were on Late Night Parents. That's even better.
That's right.
Oh, my
That's
goodness.
right. I'm going to write it down. Next book, Twitter.
Yes. Yes.
That is great. What a terrific statement.
Oh my goodness. Hey, I want to know this. I want to know this much from someone who has an extensive writing background. Like, what surprised you about? Let's just take any book. If we just said in the Line of Fire, what surprised you about the process of writing your book?
Surprised me. I think. Okay, I'll tell you. There's whenever I do a book, and I only do nonfiction. I can't write fiction because I can't sit still long enough. You have to be able to sit still and think for long periods of time. And when the kids were little, of course you can't do that. And I never got into the habit of fiction. So all of my nonfiction books are research-based, which means that I have to spend at least a year researching the topics.
Gotcha.
And I think the way I look at it is that it's the cross between a treasure hunt and a jigsaw puzzle. The treasure hunt is finding all the pieces of research, and then the jigsaw puzzle is putting all of that together in a way that someone else can understand it. And sometimes, here's the surprise part, sometimes there are pieces in that puzzle that don't belong. It's like your kid brother threw the pieces in extra from another puzzle. And so you have to have the courage to take some of it out that really doesn't fit and put it in the parking lot for another book or another whatever. That was the surprise.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. Totally.
Oh, good.
I guess that's part of the reason why it takes about a year or so to get your thoughts down, for it to totally not just make sense to you, but to focus on your readers and to get your point across.
Right. This one took 2.5 years from start to finish.
Okay. Wow. So
it's a labor of love, really.
It really is. It really is. I have to say this. I have to ask you this question. So, based on experiences of abuse you had mentioned about with your son, what are some signs that parents and or adults should be aware of in their children that would indicate possible abuse or that something else is amiss?
Right. Okay. Let's take bullying, because bullying is a huge issue, and it happens everywhere. If you think your kid is going to a school where there's no bullying, you're wrong.
Totally.
It happens everywhere, all over the world. The Japanese, in fact, are the worst at it. But these are some symptoms of bullying and abuse, okay? Being frightened of walking to or from school, changing the usual route to school, begging you to drive them to school or not even wanting to go to school, feeling ill in the mornings or those kinds of things, begin to cut school or to hide, doing poorly in schoolwork. So if you notice that your children's grades are dropping, that's one sign. Becoming withdrawn, starting to stammer, lacking confidence. I've seen a lot of girls in particular who start out as really confident and then they're being bullied or even cyberbullied, and their confidence drops. Attempting suicide, of course. There are many kids who have attempted and who have completed suicide because of bullying. Crying themselves to sleep, having nightmares, refusing to say what's wrong. And this is where that communication line with your child needs to be open, and not just now, not just starting now, you know.
Right.
Refusing, if the child is little, to be washed in the tub or showered by you. This is a big one, because if the child has been physically abused, there will be bruises. The child might not want anyone to see those. They might have unexplained cuts or scratches or bruises. Becoming aggressive or unreasonable. Hurting themselves, of course, by cutting or burning or developing eating disorders and feeling helpless and exhibiting low self-esteem. These are all symptoms of bullying and abuse, any one of which could be a signal. And, of course, these and more are listed in the book.
Jan, I just want to piggyback off of that and say, for my church, for the Youth Christian Congress, I did a cyberbullying seminar. And it was just youth from maybe 7, 8 until about, I had a couple of 18-year-olds in there. And I started off by saying, by show of hands, and I want you to show me the device, who has a working cell phone? And for the fact that I saw, I can't tell you how many 7, 8, and 9-year-olds with functioning cell phones. And I said, oh, my goodness. And it was just, I was just so perplexed by it, because we then went into definitions and we had the open conversation. And I said, you know, give me a definition of bullying. Give me a definition of cyberbullying. Is this an example of it? And they were like, well, no. Well, have you ever said to someone or to your friends online if this person was ugly or fat? And they were like, well, yeah, I said that. And I'm like, oh, my.
Yeah. Do you know that every 30 minutes in this country a teenager attempts suicide because of bullying or cyberbullying?
Wow. And
almost 50 kids are bullied every 5 minutes in the United States. And if your listeners would like a sample chapter on bullying, I'd be happy to email it to them. They just have to email me.
Gotcha.
So do you have my email address?
I do have your email address. I want to ask you one more question, and then I know we've taken up a lot of your time.
I'm delighted.
You for being so gracious. I guess my next to last question was, what do you like to do when you're not writing?
I love that question. You know, I like to joke and say my favorite thing to do is lie down, and the second favorite thing to do is lie down and sleep. But I really do like to curl up on the couch and read and knit.
Gotcha.
You know, very boring things. I garden. This year I'm going to try to grow cotton because I want to be able to spin it and knit with it. Yeah. But I also, I have my artwork, I have my photography, I have all of those things. There is very little time in my life for doing what you might call nothing.
Okay.
I'm pretty busy most of the time, but I love what I do. And this is what I do. I mean, this isn't the sideline. It's like a musician is an actual musician and doesn't have a day job, you know? They're actually playing all the time. Well, this is the kind of work that I do all the time. So it's either writing about it or talking about it or doing workshops on it or being on the radio about it.
Gotcha. Jan, my last question for you is, so what's next for you? Are you working on your next book? Do you have a title for it? Or do you have a subject matter?
Yes, and this is something I've been working on for more than 20 years, before we had the Internet. So the Internet has made it a lot easier. It's called Voiceless Victims, and the Voiceless Victims refers to children who have been at risk in war and conflict situations. And this is a project. So it includes an exhibition of the artwork and poetry from the Spanish Civil War to the present of children all around the world who have been at risk in conflict and war, and a book and a film highlighting some of those children's lives and the resilience factors, what allowed them to actually grow up and into adulthood. So that's next.
Wow. Jan, I can't thank you enough for coming on just for a few minutes. We definitely want to have you back because you are, like I said, a wealth of information. You are like, a walking, talking encyclopedia, and we appreciate just the time you spent with us. So tell us through social media. Now, I have every way to get in contact with you on social media, and I will make this available in a blog for all of our listeners on Late Night Parents. But
Great.
If you give us your Twitter and Facebook. Give us like if we wanted to get in contact with you, what would be the best way?
The best way is email, because I obsessively check my email. And it's JARN as in Nancy OW @IGLOU.com. And if anyone has any questions that they didn't get answered tonight, just email me. And, of course, I'd be happy to send that sample chapter out to anyone.
Gotcha. Well, Jan, we want to give you a round of applause.
That's
Thank you
great.
so much.
I want that. I appreciate this, and thank you so much for asking me to be on the show.
Hey, any given time, if you ever need a platform, you definitely give us a call, or you send me an email, or through Ascot, and I will be sending out the this interview and along with the blog for you for this experience.
Wonderful.
We thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much. You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
And that was Jan Arnow. She, Jan was as advertised. Oh my goodness! So I got to send our good friends at Ascot, say thank you to them for all that they've done for us tonight. Really appreciate the conversation. I really appreciate the book, In the Line of Fire: Raising Kids in a Violent World. You can find it. Why don't you try audibletrials.com/late night parents and look for that title. You can probably also find it on Amazon. You can find it anywhere, but definitely it's a great book. It's a great read to pick it up, and it's for parents. It's for administrators. It's for folks that are non-parents. If you care about the future in the world, and the future and the world are built on our children coming up and growing up and to be future leaders, we want to make sure they stay on the straight and narrow. So without further ado, we want to say thank you once again to Jan. I think we have our good friend Simone Bridges joining us very shortly. She likes to say Money Moan. But we had a few questions. Hang on 1 second.
Simone Sports, Simone Bridges, and I like blogger, but I trained journalist. She's the Stern sports reporter. She writes like a host online. She's a co-host. Snacks is on blog radio, which is where we air. Which is where we air live every week through Blog Talk. It also says she's a pageant queen, Miss Black Texas 2015. So coming out of Dallas, Texas, very shortly we're going to have Simone on sports, and we had a few questions for her. So I'm going to check the line right now to see. Simone, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate you.
Oh, no, thank you for having me. I'm really excited. This is my first podcast, interview where it's like non-sports related. So I thought that was really cool.
Isn't it even better? There's something about the talking heads, because I'm a talking head because I do a MLB podcast on Saturdays, baseball, beer, and barbecue.
Oh, okay.
But it's great to do a podcast that's non-sports related. You're not quoting stats. You're not going off on what you saw on TV, and it's kind of, it puts you in that unique space. But we're so happy to have you. We got a lot to talk about. I know you are short on time, so I want to definitely jump into it. That Twitter, as you know, is a very powerful tool, and I meet so many people through it, and so most of the time, some of the times they are, I invite folks onto the show. But it was just interesting because, and this is me. This is Ted Hicks, the dad, the 40-plus-year-old dad who has the kids and married for 16 years and all of that. But I go on Facebook, Simone, and I need you to help me out. I go on Facebook, and I see the moms on there. And when it's usually Mother's Day, and they start acting up a little bit, Simone, because between that Mother's Day and the Father's Day peak, it's just, people start showing out. And I joke and say to my daughter, who's 13, who also plays basketball, so I definitely got to bend your ear about a few things, maybe even offline. I say to her, I said, Nyla, why is it every Mother's Day we can't get into the mall, and Father's Day, which is 30 days later, you can park wherever you want to park?
You know what? That's so funny that you said that because I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
No. I want to open the floor to you.
It's funny that you said that because, my dad took my mom and me out for Mother's Day, for breakfast on Mother's Day. We went to Cracker Barrel. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yes.
It's a really popular restaurant out here in Texas. And, it was a long wait, and we were talking about our summer basketball when I was younger, and I used to play summer basketball, and how we didn't have tournaments on Mother's Day, but we always had tournaments on Father's Day. And he was just like, it's similar to the restaurant situation. Like, you go to a restaurant on Mother's Day, and it's an hour to 30-minute wait, and you can just walk right in on Father's Day. And I think that just has to do with, first of all, there is an epidemic of, absentee fathers, and not just in the Black community, because a lot of people, we're stereotyped as, having absentee fathers, but it stretches all the way across. It doesn't limit itself to African Americans. Mothers just typically, I don't want to speak in too generally, but mothers just typically have a stronger role in upbringing of children, traditionally. So I think that's why, it tends to just be a bigger holiday. It's more not respected, but it's just more like, it's put on a higher pedestal than Father's Day, I guess, which is unfortunate.
I mean, Simone, I'm going to tell you this much. So I go to a Baptist church, right? And Christmas, Mother's Day, and Easter, those are the 3 days where you can't find a seat
Can't find a parking spot, I'm sure. You got to park in the overflow parking lot, huh?
Yes, you do, and it's something. But so I'm going to switch it around on you a little bit and say, okay, it's Father's Day. You open up Facebook and you find nothing but, and I'm sorry, you find nothing but women that are getting hot, that are like, oh, I want to thank everyone that wishes me a happy Mother's Day and a Father's Day, and that just drives me insane, Simone. It just really does. And I'm like, and I understand about the absentee fathers, but then there's some fathers that are doing the right thing. You know, a few bad apples don't spoil the whole, you know, for everyone. Come on.
For sure. And I think that situation is very subjective. You know, me, for instance, you know, I have a 3-year-old son. I have custody of him. His father isn't very active in his life. And, you know, he is 8 hours away. So that's one big reason why. I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but it's not like he's up the street so he can see him every weekend. He's far away. So, you know, I've had friends wish me Happy Father's Day, and it's not something that I really want to partake in. You know what I mean? I agree with you. Father's Day isn't necessarily, to me, a day to talk down on fathers that are not there. It's to uplift and praise fathers that are there. So personally, I do not want to be wished a Happy Father's Day. Like I said, I've had friends who know, friends who know my situation. They know that I'm a sole, the sole provider and caretaker of my child. And they'll say, you know what, Happy Father's Day. You know, you play both roles, and I'll be like, thank you, but you don't have to say that to me. Like, this isn't a day for me. This is a day to uplift fathers that are there. But again, like I said, it's so subjective. That it hurts. You know what I mean? It does hurt for children, for kids that say, oh, you know what, my mom was my dad and my mom. Like that comes from hurt. That stems from hurt from their father not being present in their life. I don't care what they say. They'll try to mask it like they don't care, but it is hurtful not having both parents in your life. It definitely hurts a child. I'm blessed that I don't have to do that. I get to wish my mom Happy Mother's Day, and I get to wish my father Happy Father's Day. We're both, married 29 years, both extremely active in my childhood and even adult life. So I'm blessed in that way. But I can never understand the hurt. So I can never understand the hurt of somebody who does that. So I try not to judge, because I know there's a lot of judging on these social networks, because it's easy to say your opinion. All you have to do is type a couple words and press send, and boom, your opinion's out there. And so I feel like it's really easy for people to judge, but you just don't understand. Different things affect people differently. So one person might not care. One person, might be seriously affected by that. So I really try not to judge, and I wish everybody would do that, because it's not necessarily they want attention, but they are hurting. It is hard to raise a child by yourself. It's difficult. It's not easy. But at the same time, I think I handle it better than a lot of other people. I see the women that you're talking about who say, "Oh, my son's dad or my daughter's dad isn't even around." And like I said, I like to use that day as a day to uplift my father, who has been a wonderful father to me and my sisters, who's been a wonderful grandfather to my son, and all the other fathers out there. Because like you said, there are a lot of fathers out there. We tend to look at the negative. That's just human nature, and so we tend to want to highlight the negative and point that stuff out. But there are plenty of awesome, awesome fathers. That's my personal opinion on the matter.
Oh no, that's definitely. So I'm gonna hit you with a couple of quick questions. So tell me about what would you consider the ultimate Mother's Day gift?
Man, I'm really into pampering. So I think, moms do so much. They cook, they clean, they're waking the child up to get ready for school, which is a whole other task in itself. They're bathing the kid, putting him to bed. We do a lot. And I think just a day, my perfect Mother's Day would just be a day where I don't have to do any of it. Someone else wakes the kid up, gets him dressed, makes him breakfast, makes him lunch, takes him to the park, entertains him. I just want to be in a spa. I want to be getting massages and facials, getting my nails and toes done. doing my hair. Like, I just want to be treated like a princess that whole day, or treated like a queen. Like, just pamper me and make me feel like I just want to relax. I want a nice glass of wine. You know, I just don't want to be bothered, basically.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So tell us quickly. Tell our listeners quickly about playing Division I basketball in college.
You know, playing Division I, that was definitely, it was always one of my dreams. I always, you know, my dad was a basketball player. He played Division I, and so I always wanted to be able to say I played Division I too. You know, say that to him. So it was a very awesome experience. It's very hard though. I think a lot of people don't understand. There's a difference in Division I and Division II. It just is. Not saying there's anything wrong with Division II, but Division I more is expected out of you, especially playing basketball. So, you know, most teams get some type of break. You know, volleyball will get spring break, and then, you know, the spring sports will get like Thanksgiving break and all the Christmas break off. So basketball, it goes between 2 semesters. So basically, you don't get Thanksgiving break, you don't get Christmas break, you don't get spring break. It's a full-time job, full-time commitment. You have to take care of your body. You have to study so you can stay eligible. You have to get good grades. It's absolutely one of the hardest and toughest things. And it takes a lot of mental toughness as well, because you do start to miss your family. When you only get 2 days off for Christmas and you have to go back to school and there's literally nobody there except for your teammates, everybody else is out of town, at home, you know, enjoying their break. It's just you guys. You're just looking at each other. You get sick of looking at each other. You know, it takes a lot of mental toughness, and you have to remember why you're there and what you're there for. But it was definitely one of the most rewarding things. Outside of my son, it's definitely the most exciting, most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. But you have to be committed to it, completely committed to it.
And as I've said at the onset of this call, that we're going to have to talk offline, because my daughter is heading to the 8th grade. She's excited about, you know, prepping for high school basketball and everything else. And not that I want to take that dream away from her, but I just wanted someone who's gone through this to just, you know, set the expectations or help set the expectations. And
no, definitely. I really enjoy talking to kids about that, because, you know, I mean, everybody wants to play at the highest level, but the reality is that not everybody can. But if you really, I mean, you really dedicate your life to working for it, it's always possible. So I love talking to kids about that type of stuff, because it really is the most exciting 4 years of my life, hands down. My best friends were my teammates, still best friends to this day. Like, it was awesome. I loved it.
I gotta speak with you about Black Sports Online. I mean, they're partnering with Fox, and there's a lot of exposure. We're running out of time. I'm going to table that for now and say to you, I know you're heavily involved in social media. I want you to be able to give our listeners the best way to get in contact with you. We're going to be, not only will this interview be available on Late Night Parents, but also on Public Radio Exchange. So what's the best way, Simone, to get in contact with you via social media?
Okay, so you can contact me. My Twitter handle is Simone on Sports. That's SimoneOnSports. Simone on Sports. And that's the best way to reach me. And follow me, I follow back. So, yeah.
And tell us really quick about your show on Blog Talk.
You know what? It's in the works right now, but it's me and 2 other sports journalists, and it's just, you know, we talk about mainly Dallas sports, so the Mavericks, Cowboys, a little bit about the Rangers. It's called Snap and Tip, and basically, yeah, it's just sports with a little bit of sass. You know, it's 3 women who know their stuff and know what they're talking about, and you know, we try to make it exciting and fun though. So, yeah, it's really fun, and we should be actually starting next Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. So
definitely, you
definitely
let me know
on my Twitter.
You definitely let me know so I can make sure I'll circulate it amongst my friends too, because you're a great interview, and wanted to give you a round of applause. Simone, this is the first time you're on the show, but it definitely won't be the last because as certain sports, because we will talk a little bit of sports now. We have, you in this arena where we can pull you in and ask you specific questions. But thank you so much for being with us tonight, and all the best with your new show that's going to debut next Thursday on Blog Talk Radio. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for having me.
All right. And that was Simone Bridges, Simone on Sports, joining us. Very interesting approach to motherhood and talking about Mother's Day and just everything, all the above. We really appreciate her commentary. But next up, we got, I like to say, my brother, Brandon on Sports, is here, the host of Sports Trap Radio, every Tuesday, 6:30 Eastern Time to 8:30. Fantasy Sports, Blog Talk Radio. So he's a label mate because we're all on Blog Talk. I mean, the two of us and about 100,000 other folks. But Brandon, what's going on?
What's up, bro? How you doing?
Pretty good. Brandon, I want to thank you for joining us and let you know that I heard you on EJ Christian Earnestly Speaking radio show, and I heard your story, and I had to get you on here to share your story about, fitness and fatherhood and nutrition, because this is what we all go through. I mean, I tell you, for one, something happens for me, when I hit 40, things just seem to slow down, and the kids just seem to get quicker. And I'm like, oh, man, and I noticed some things, and I got to tell you, I got one of those Bowflex Max trainers in my workout room, and I'm on it like 30 minutes a day because I said, I gotta drop this because I want to be around for my children. But I want to give you the floor and share with you. I want you to share your story on nutrition and fitness and some of the things that you had to deal with, and what made you make that change. So I want to open up the floor to you, brother. It's all you.
I mean, to me, growing up, I always was an athlete. I started playing football at 5 years old, basketball, baseball. I was always a great athlete growing up. Through high school, I played football, basketball, baseball, was an all-star in football and baseball. I, was an all-star as far as throwing a shot put in track and field. And, I had numerous scholarship offers to go play college football. And I went to Florida A&M, and I played a year and some change before I tore my ankle up and, I couldn't play anymore. So, I always been, before I started having children and, starting to have to work and get a regular job, I always kept myself in pretty good shape. Even after I left Florida A&M and I came back to Philly, and I'm from Philadelphia, born and raised. When I came back to Philly, I was the first real job that I ever had in my life was at the YMCA in Germantown, a certain section of Philly. So even then, I still worked out 2 or 3 times a day. I trained other people. And, it was about 30, 40 guys that I grew up with that played college basketball. Some played NBA. A lot of them played overseas, and I trained those guys, and I played basketball with them every day. So I was always in shape to a certain point. I got a son now that's 10 years old, and he was born in 2004. Around that time, I had left the Germantown Y. I had started working with kids with mental health issues, and I got that job, and, his mother at the time was pregnant, and me and her was together, and that's when it started kind of going, my fitness had started going, downhill for me at that point. I had already had 2 kids prior to that, but when Taseer, when he was born, and I had to start working more jobs and stuff like that. I still was playing. I played semi-pro football even after the injury, and obviously I wasn't the same athlete that I was before, but I still was good enough to go out there and knock heads and play well out there. And I just dealt with, the soreness and the pain the next day in my foot, having to limp around the next day. But that's when I started working that job with Carson Valley Children's Aid. And, I was working overnights, and, I had to be up and watch the kids, and I would be up playing PlayStation 2. This was even before PlayStation 3 was out. Playing PlayStation 2, and I would be eating all types of stuff. Like, my eating habits probably was bad my whole life, but because I always was active and I always was working out, it didn't catch up to me. But when I stopped working out the way I was before, and, me eating 8 slices of bread in a day, and me drinking a couple 2-liter sodas a day, and, all the stuff that I was eating, it started catching up with me. You know what I mean? Before I know it, I was 330 pounds, 337 pounds, and I'm like 6'2" and a half and some change. Okay. My playing weight in college, I was usually playing at like 240, 245. You know what I mean? At one point, I was able to bench press almost 400 pounds, and I used to squat like 780. You know what I mean? I was in pretty good shape, but at that point, because of the kids and having to work and not playing football and all that no more, before I know it, my weight was just all over the place. Now, coming to about 2008, my youngest son, Brandon Jr., he was born. And right after he was born, I found out that I was a diabetic because for a while I just started being, like, very fatigued. And, running to the bathroom, I couldn't sleep through the night because I had to go to the bathroom and, all that kind of stuff. And then when I was still working in Carson Valley and all during my shifts, like, I just had to constantly keep running to the bathroom, like, every 5-10 minutes. Like, it was ridiculous. And at one point, I started missing work because I was just so tired I couldn't get up. So I went to the ER, and when I got to the ER, they had tested my blood sugar, and usually you would get a number. You know what I mean? It could be in the hundreds, 200s, 300s, 400s. If it's over 400, it would just say high. When I came in there, they tested my blood sugar, and it just said high. And she was, this is very dangerous. If you ain't coming here, in another 20 minutes, you could have went in a diabetic coma and this and that. So at that point, I found out I was diabetic. The first 3 months, I found out I was diabetic in 2008 when I had changed my diet, stopped eating certain stuff. I had lost weight. I had probably lost like 30, 40 pounds. And, I lost that weight and everything was cool. I took it for granted, started eating bad again, you know what I mean? And I thought just because I had the insulin that I could still eat the bad stuff as long as I kept my blood sugar levels a certain way. Yeah, my blood sugar levels were still, they were still fine, but I still wasn't eating right. I still wasn't working out. I wasn't getting up, going across the street, the Hank Gavis Rec Center, which is right across the street from me. Basketball leagues there all year. I wasn't going over there playing basketball and stuff that I needed to do. And my weight would fluctuate. Sometimes I would end up being, in the 270s, 280s. It'd go up to about 3. It'd just end up being back and forth. So last year on my show, during football season, I interviewed Tony Gonzalez. And I was always amazed at after he left Kansas City, how he still was able to play at a high level when he got to Atlanta, from ages 34, 35, 36, 37, 38 until he decided to stop playing. And he had told me that he decided to be a vegetarian. He talked about the benefits and how it was this misconception that you had to eat meat to get protein and to be fit and be strong. And he was like, look at me. I played in the NFL, greatest athletes in the world, big, strong, fast guys. And, you've seen from me. You know, you've seen what I was able to do, and he had wrote a book about it. So I got the book. I started reading through it, and by the time last year rolled around on Memorial Day, a couple weeks before Memorial Day, I decided, I said, you know what, after Memorial Day, that's it. I'm not eating meat no more. No meat at all. No beef, no chicken, turkey, fish, bacon, turkey bacon, none of that kind of stuff. I'm just going to cut it all out cold turkey. And this was even before I decided to start working out and picking up weights again. So the first 30 days I decided to do it, I ended up losing like 17 pounds, and this without lifting weights. And I'm like, well, damn, this worked. My blood sugar levels and everything was good. I ended up having to go to the doctor, and they had to adjust the insulin that I was taking because I was taking too much because I wasn't eating the same things. You know, I cut out all the juices and all that kind of stuff, try to drink a gallon of water a day. And, you know, within 3 months, you know, it was, 30 pounds. And at the point when I started last year, I was like 310 pounds. So then, you know, I kept on that path, and, you know, I started lifting the weights. I started lifting weights 5-6 days a week, you know what I mean, upper body, going hard, lower body, going hard. You know what I mean, I paced myself into it, and I thought, like, I know how to work out, but it's like, you know, you get a little older and your body don't respond like it used to, and you decide not to go as hard as you should. So I'm online, I'm on Instagram, and I run across this guy, his name's CT Fletcher, online, and I see one of his videos, and the guy, he's from Compton, he like 60 years old, and I seen him, you know, working out and training other people, and I seen how hard they was going. I remember when I was in college that they said that you don't want to overtrain this part of your body, or you know what I mean, you don't want to overtrain. You need rest. You got to do this way. You got to do this that way. Well, I seen CT Fletcher, him, the guy Mike Rashid, and I seen them working out and the way they were working out. And he had said in the video, you know, I guarantee you if you try this for 30 days and do exactly the program that I tell you to do, that you'll have results. So the first week I did it, and the way that they were working out, like it was a killer. I remember after the first day, like going to sleep and waking up the next morning and not being able to move my arms, and you know, just being completely sore. And I made it through that first couple of weeks, the first month, and then, you know what I mean, my body started feeling better. Like I started feeling like how I felt when I used to be able to work out all crazy when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, like in my 20s. And I'll be 35 in June. And since then, like, it's become an addiction for me. Like, I feel much better. Like, I have to go to the gym. You know what I mean? Like, Monday through Friday, I have to go. I just started deciding to go for a day on Saturday and Sunday to continue going. Like, it's become an addiction for me. My body feels great. My blood sugar levels are amazing. They had to keep, every time I go back to the doctor, they got to, you don't need to take this medicine no more. You know what I mean? My daughter is 15 years old. She's constantly on YouTube pulling up videos and stuff and working out at home. My son, BJ, will be 7 years old next week. He's constantly, like, whenever he see me doing it, he do it. There's times when he doing push-ups and he doing planks and he doing all this different kind of stuff on his own. Like, when I, you know, do planks, he climbs on my back and he hangs on, you know what I mean, and he adds more weight on it. You know, and then the whole, with me being a vegetarian thing, Dave picked up on that as well. And, like, my son is 6 years old. He in the first grade, and he telling his teacher, you know, at school, that I'm a vegetarian. I only eat veggie burgers and, you know, this and that. And it's crazy, like, they always say that your kids watch everything you do. And,
yes, they do.
I mean, they do. And, you know what I mean, all my sons are just like me. They all into sports. They all like video games. You know what I mean? They all like good food. And because of this change I made as far as I tell people all the time, it's not a diet for me. Like, it's a lifestyle change because this is what I am now, and this is what I'm going to continue to be. Because, like, a couple months ago, I had a friend that I grew up with, that I played football with from Little League through high school, that died from diabetes. You know what I mean? Like where I'm from, you know what I mean, a lot of people don't make it out for various reasons, whether it's the streets, you know what I mean, the drugs, all types of different stuff. And, you know, I lost my homie Frank Cummins to diabetes, and I remember when he first found out he got it, and, you know what I mean, he had took it serious for a little while, but then he didn't, and he ended up passing away because of that and leaving his children and his wife there. And I'm like, you know, I don't want that to be me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and I'm Muslim, and, you know, part of Islam is, you know, taking care of your body and not, you know, being a reason, not putting things in your body that you know, will hinder you. You know what I mean? Like, I tell people all the time, I'm not afraid to talk about it. Like, I grew up hard. Like, I grew up in the streets. Like, I started selling dope when I was 13 years old. You know what I mean? I started drinking when I was 13 years old because it helped me go to sleep at night because I was so wired from being on the corner. Like, I've been sober for 3 years now. You know what I mean? For a long time, from 13 to 32, like, I was drinking, and that was my medicine because I dealt with abandonment issues and, you know, from my parents and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I used liquor as my medicine, you know, beer, liquor, all that kind of stuff for years. And now, you know, my therapy and my medicine is going to the gym and working out. You know what I mean? Like, I want to set the example for my kids. Like, I tell my daughter all the time, like, you know what I mean, she went to a party, one of her cousins, you know, was around her age, had a birthday party a couple of weeks ago, and she was saying how some of the kids that came there drunk and this and that. And, you know, I told her, I said, look, you know, some people would say, oh, everybody going to try it. I said, I don't want you trying. I said, I remember, you know, drinking so bad. I said, I don't want you trying alcohol, none of that kind of stuff, because I remember, you know, me still having that issue a few years back, being so fed up that you wanted to pack your stuff up and leave. You know what I mean? You didn't want to be here no more. And that was my rock bottom. Like, that's my only daughter, my oldest child, and she was fed up with the drinking and stuff with me, and she wanted to pack her stuff up and leave my house. You know what I mean? And not tear up talking about it because it's real. You know what I mean? That was a legit problem to me. And I told her, you know, like, you seen what that did to me. Like, I don't want you trying none of that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So, like, now for me, like, growing up the way I grew up and living the way I lived and me turning my life around, fitness, education for my kids, sports, all that kind of stuff, I try to set the example for my kids, and not only my kids, but the kids in my, you know, my neighborhood and my community and stuff like that.
Brandon, I got to tell you, that is such a heartfelt story, and that is, it's stories like that need to be shared more and more. Because I mean, right now we're just two grown men talking. We're talking about our lives and how hard it is out there to be that positive role model. But you saw some stumbling blocks that were in front of you that you had to get around, and you knew you had to put that alcohol down. You knew you had to clean up the way you were eating. Because, I mean, most importantly, you want to be around for your kids.
Yeah.
You want to be around for them. You want to see them graduate. You want to, you know, get to the point where you see them and they get married and move on with their lives, and they really start their lives. You know, and with you before, living the way you were before, that wasn't going to happen. That was something that, but I can't thank you enough for sharing that story because it's real. And I tell you, for one, not just being a man, but an African-American man, that, I mean, it's that type of discussion needs to happen. That needs to happen, whether, you know, you're in your community, you're in your church, you're just around your friends because they see you. They don't see you as trust me, your friends now don't see you as they saw you 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You're a new person. So I like I said, I can't thank you enough because it was definitely from the heart. I've never personally listened to the Sports Trap Radio, but I definitely will next Tuesday because
thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Totally inspirational, brother. No doubt. There's so much love coming off this line right now. I mean, if you ever need to share these type of stories again, and maybe you don't feel that it's appropriate on the Sports Trap Radio, Late Night Parents is always available because we talk about these type of things. We talk about these issues. Tonight we had an author from In the Line of Fire about raising kids in a violent world, and she sent me her book the day the riots broke loose in Baltimore. And I'm sitting here saying, oh, my goodness. And then we had Simone on Sports, and she was talking about that epidemic of the fatherless epidemic. I told her, I said, how come in the malls the night before Mother's Day you can't get into any mall across America, and you fast forward 30 days ahead, you can get into any mall for Father's Day. It's like they just don't even give a damn.
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
Father's Day, and you know what I mean? It's like, and I know in a lot of different places, and it's like this misconception that only in, African American, communities that the fathers aren't around in African American communities. I mean, but it's, in all types of different races, communities, period. But you go on social media around fathers, like on Mother's Day, the mothers are celebrated and the mothers are said, this and that, and but on Father's Day you'll have a lot of women saying, oh, well, this guy ain't ish, and I'm the dad, and this and that, when there's actually a lot of fathers that's out there. I mean, I know single fathers that I personally know. I know a lot of men, black, Hispanic, white, it don't matter, just race, period. There's a lot of men out here that's actually doing what they're supposed to do as far as taking care of their children. And I'm glad to say that I'm one of them. Two of mine are here right now. And, I'm in their lives every day. I make sure they're educated. I make sure that they're fed and well taken care of. And there's a lot more that's out there just like us as well. But like you said, on Mother's Day, the day before, you can't get in the mall. You can't get a reservation to go out and eat. You know what I mean? This and that. But around Father's Day, you ain't got to make no plans ahead of time. You can just get up and go ahead and go. You know what I mean? On those days. But, I mean, it is what it is. But I'm glad, that you brought me on Late Night Parent. You know what I mean? I'm glad you're going to end up listening to the show. Either one of your shows, I heard about you, the baseball show, and I'm going to get at a listen as well. Us here in Philadelphia, when it comes to baseball, things have went downhill consistently since the Phillies won the World Series in 2008. But either one of your shows, man, you want to bring me on, I'm more than glad to come on and, just talk about sports, talk about life.
Definitely. Brandon, want to give you a one-time round of applause. Brandon, tell us the best way to get in contact with you via social media.
You can follow me on Twitter at Brandon on Sports, Instagram Brandon on Sports, Facebook.com/Brandon on Sports. I'm always Fancy Sport House, SportsWarehouse.com, WarRoomSports.com. Like, I'm constantly, posting links to articles or just tweeting about sports, the games that might be going on at that time. I'll tweet out the link to yesterday's show for everybody to listen. But again, Ted Hicks, thank you for having me on, man. And, I definitely, you guys do the baseball show. I'll definitely be coming to you to come on Sports Trap Radio with me and Aunt Green to talk some baseball.
Definitely, brother. Definitely. Well, like I said, thank you so much. And this is the first time you're on the show, but it definitely won't be the last. And I'm glad we were able to connect virtually. And we'll be talking on Twitter. So much love to you and your family. All right.
All right. Thanks, bro. Thank you.
No problem. And that was Brandon on Sports with sharing a heartfelt story. We appreciate him. We appreciate all of our guests because, you know, this is a father that's telling you how things are. And some of the, like I said, some of the obstacles he's had to go through in life. And this is not some scripted reality TV type, you know, or reality radio type show where the writers are putting things together. These are real people. And that's what we bring to you every week. We really appreciate you. We love you guys. Next week, we have a couple that will be joining us. And the topic will be, could the rules of marriage be ripe for a change? Open relationships are popular among some, and new research suggests why. So we're going to be talking about open relationships next week on Late Night Parent. Guys, as always, as I've said before, we love you and we thank you. We thank our three guests, Jan Arnow, Simone Bridges, and Brandon on Sports. And guess what? We're out.